Helen Yee here, and I'm at Extreme Couture being joined by number 13 ranked middleweight Brad Tavares. First off, congratulations. Big win over Tallis at UFC 216. How does it feel to basically be on the cusp of the top 10 for the middleweights?
It feels awesome. I've been at it a long time. I've been in the UFC for 7, going on 8 years now. And, I was on a streak before, but I was younger then and not as skilled. I feel like I'm a much better fighter now. I have a lot more experience, so I just feel really good about everything right now.
And you are riding a 3-fight win streak, looking very good, like I just mentioned. And, I mean, we kind of just talked briefly about this, but you are going to become a father. Is it November 7th or the 9th? Well, congratulations. How do you feel about all that?
A little bit of excitement mixed with a little bit of fear, just, not knowing what to expect. This is my first. But just mostly excited, my girlfriend and I are bringing a baby into this world, and, I just want to be the best father I can be.
And with that being said, I mean, I know you like to be very active and fight frequently. And like I said, you're riding a 3-fight win streak, lots of momentum going on, about to break the top 10. And looking at the middleweight division, it's a very stacked division. I know with MMA Junkie, you mentioned you want to fight Anderson Silva, or a possibility. He's fighting Kelvin Gastelum soon. So essentially, if, whether Anderson wins or loses, do you just want a fight with him, or what's that do?
It was kind of just a question that was thrown out there. They always got to ask who you want to fight next. And I honestly haven't really even looked at it, but they threw out a bunch of names, and Anderson was one of those names. And, I figured why not? He's a legend in the sport, a guy that I looked up to coming up in this sport. And for him to be like an option of somebody to fight, I think it would be an awesome opportunity. And again, I'm trying to advance my career. He's ranked, I think, like 5, 6, something like that. So regardless if he wins or loses to Kelvin, he'll still be in the top 10, and he still carries his status. So a fight against him would be huge, and a win against him even bigger.
Yeah, but what about, because basically in the top 10, I know you fought Robert Whittaker, current interim champion, and you've only had a couple losses, which came from Whittaker, Yoel, Romero, and I mean, they're the top guys. So essentially, I mean, you've already fought kind of the best of the best. So I know Weidman doesn't really have a fight, and after he beat Kelvin, and Rockhold just beat David Branch. So do any of those names to kind of, get you into the top 10, do they interest you?
Any of those guys would interest me, honestly. Like I said, I just threw out Anderson because that was a name that came up, and because of, I'm kind of realistic about it. I know that Weidman and Rockhold are probably, they're former champions. They're probably a fight away from getting a title shot again, especially with how plugged up our division is right now. We have Bisping fighting GSP, which, GSP has never even fought at 185. And then you have an interim champion already who's injured, just waiting for that fight to play out. So there's a lot of the top of our division is really clogged up right now. If the opportunity arose to fight, those guys who are ranked way up there, jump at the opportunity. But me just being realistic, I know that they don't want to fight way down because they're trying to, ultimately work for that title shot like I am. If they wanted to, then sign me up. But I approach it realistically. I look a little ahead of me because I do want to burst into that top 10, into that top 5, and eventually fight for that belt. But yeah.
And what do you think, you just brought that up and mentioned Bisping GSP. It's coming right around the corner, UFC 217. Like you mentioned, former welterweight king, basically, and took a few years off, comes back, gets the title shot for the middleweight division.
Well, Whittaker is hurt, so they can't immediately unify the belts. So, you know what I mean? Like, they already made an interim title fight, so they can't make an interim to the interim. Like, it wouldn't make any sense. So having a guy as big as GSP, that guy has a huge fan base. And yeah, granted, he's never fought in the division. He's been away for 4, 5 years, whatever it is. So yeah, maybe to the guys right below who are ready for that title shot, like a Rockhold, like a Romero or a Weidman, you know, those guys are probably a little more ticked off because they feel like they got jumped in line, which they did, and rightfully so. But sitting in my shoes, you know, I'm not mad because I know it wasn't me to get the next title shot. Had they offered it to me, hell yeah, I fight Bisping in a heartbeat. I've wanted to fight the man for years. But I don't know, it makes sense to me. I understand it from the business aspect. You know, you can't have an interim champion. And why not have somebody as big as GSP making his return, you know, fight on this huge stacked card?
And how do you see that fight playing out? And kind of looking at their styles, which are kind of different.
Yeah. In all honesty, Bisping is one of those guys that every time you count him out, he comes back and just, you know, gets that upset win, like against Rockhold the second time. Rockhold already defeated him fairly quickly and easily. And I think Rockhold took him a little too lightly, and he came back and shocked Rockhold and shocked the world. And now he's a middleweight champion. But, you know, I think he deserves it. He's been fighting in this sport for so long, and the title shot and the middleweight championship itself has eluded him for so long that, you know, I'm glad that, you know, he gets to have the belt for now. He's an amazing fighter. That being said, GSP, before he left, was one of probably the most complete fighters we had ever seen. Not a lot of guys mixed it up as well as him, were as strong, powerful, and explosive with the type of technique that he would put behind his fighting skill. But who knows? Is that the same GSP we're going to see? It's hard to tell. So I'm really 50-50 on it. You know, I think that if it's the old GSP and he fights just like how he used to, and maybe now, yeah, he's been away for a while, but, you know, I don't know, somebody who's fought in as much high-profile fights as he has and has as much experience as he has, I can't really see a lot of ring rust. Maybe he comes out slower in the first, but I feel like he'll pick it right back up where he left off. So we just got to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I know it should be a good fight, and interesting to see, you know, whether or not GSP kind of needed a tune-up fight, because I mean that's kind of the big question. Should he have taken one fight before fighting for the title, right?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I think it would have made a lot of people much happier and feel a lot better about him getting the title shot if he had fought somebody in the top 10, you know, and then defeated them, and then they're like, okay, now it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, if I were gonna bet on the fight, I would definitely have wanted to see him fight somebody else, just to see, like, so we know where he is. Like, what does he look like now? Nobody knows. I mean, it's one thing to hit mitts, it's one thing to roll, to spar, do any of those things. It's a completely different thing to fight. So I'm really curious to see, you know, what he looks like. And if it's the old GSP fighting the way he used to, you know, I honestly think that I think he'll beat Bisping. I know a lot of people are saying that, you know, he doesn't belong in the division, this, that, and whatever, but you got to respect the guy and what he did. And, you know, it's not, he's not very tall, but he's a pretty stout, stocky guy. So 70 and 85 are not too far apart.
And I mean, we've seen quite a few fighters who do move up in weight and are successful, and Kelvin Gastelum being one of them, went from 70 to 85. He is, like we just mentioned, fighting Anderson Silva. How do you see that fight playing out, though?
I think for Kelvin, his fight against Weidman, I think the thing that played the biggest into it was just the sheer size advantage Weidman had over him. He's so much taller and longer, and, you know, he's a true 85er. Kelvin, for whatever reason, you know, he has issues cutting weight, but he's not the biggest 85er. That being said, though, Anderson is not the type of guy to come out and use that weight and lay on you. So it'll be a striking fight, probably. I can see Kelvin going for a takedown and, you know, trying to take him down. So, you know, I honestly think Kelvin might have the edge here. If he tries to turn it into a straight up striking match, it might not be the best for him. But Kelvin is just one of those guys. You know, when the lights come on, when it's fight night, he just shines. So I'm leaning a little more towards Kelvin for this fight. But it's the fight game. He's fighting a legend, and, you know, anything can happen.
And if he does win, would you be interested in a fight with him?
You know, Kelvin and I, we're friends. We're managed by the same person in Ali. So it would be a fight that if there's other options, I would want to look to those other options first. But you know, it's the fight game. It wouldn't be anything personal, and if we didn't have any other choice but to fight for like a contender spot, then so be it. But yeah, like I said, I wish him the best, and I'm leaning more towards him. I think he'll come out of there victorious.
And looking at Robert Whittaker, the interim champion, who you have fought before, what do you think about him? Do you think that out of everyone that you fought, was he the toughest, or was it Yoel Romero?
I don't. You know, I have a hard time really deciding who was the toughest against Whittaker. I honestly feel like I don't take nothing away from the man. You know, he's an excellent fighter. He beat me, and that was then. That being said, though, I feel like I didn't even really get a chance to fight. You know, he caught me with a good shot, and ended up getting the finish. But I definitely believe that I'm more than capable of beating Robert Whittaker, and if I fought Romero again, him too. So I wouldn't know who to say was really the harder fight. I feel like if we ran it back, I'd beat both of them. So I don't know.
Yeah, and but if the winner fights, obviously the winner of Bisping and GSP, do you think that Whittaker would beat both of them, or it's kind of because you fought Whittaker? Yeah. So
I would definitely have to say I think Whittaker beats both of them. Like I said, it's hard to really judge GSP just because we haven't seen him for so long, so it's hard to say what to really expect. I definitely think Whittaker beats Bisping though. You know, I just feel like Whittaker's younger. You know, he's just a little bit more athletic, and like he got the youth on his side. He's riding momentum. I think he's 5-6 fight win streak, and on the way to his interim belt, you know, he's beat some of the best guys. So yeah, I definitely think if Bisping fights Whittaker, or if Whittaker fights GSP, I think Whittaker comes out ahead on both of those.
And were you impressed with his fight against Romero?
I definitely was. You know, Whittaker has definitely proven that he's gotten much better as each fight comes along. More impressed with his Romero fight. I was more impressed with his fight against Jacare. I honestly thought Jacare would be able to take him down, which he did, and then, you know, eventually submit him there. But Whittaker just stayed calm, and he survived on the ground, got out, and ended up getting the knockout. So props to him.
Now, Jacare, now that you mentioned that, would that be someone you're interested in fighting? A pretty big name?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's ranked right up there in the top 10 somewhere, closer to the top of the division. And he has a huge name. He's you know, former title challenger. I think he might even had the belt at Strikeforce for a little while. So a fight against him, I'd definitely be open to it. And
also, because, you know, so many of the middleweights have had fights or are having fights coming up. Luke Rockhold, when he stopped David Branch, would he be someone that you'd be interested in fighting?
Yeah, I think Luke is a tremendous fighter. Like I said, I along with the rest of the road, I was shocked when he lost the belt to Bisping. But I think that that just happened because he was a little bit too comfortable. He got a little bit too relaxed in there, and didn't take Bisping as seriously as he should have, just because he had beat him so easily already, I should say. And but I definitely think that Luke is one of the best fighters in the middleweight division, and a fight with him and a win over him would be huge for me. You know, I think that could put me right into title contention.
Absolutely. But I know you just fought a few weeks ago, and like you mentioned, you do have a baby girl on the way. So are you in the works of finding another fight right now, or are you going to take some time off to be a dad?
So as far as a fight goes, I'm not like pursuing another fight immediately, just because in about 3 weeks, my baby will be born roughly. So, you know, I got to figure out what being a daddy is like and dealing with a newborn and all of that. as far as training goes, that doesn't stop. As you see, and I was in here today training. That's not going to stop. I'll continue working on my craft. I'll continue getting better, staying in shape, working on the things that I need to. As soon as I get my baby into like a rhythm to where she's on a schedule, she can sleep through the night, that whole deal, and I get kind of used to being a dad myself, then I'll look for another fight immediately.
So do you foresee that kind of being in 2018 then, right?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of big fights coming up, so if a short notice, huge opportunity arises, I might still just jump at it, you know? It might be hard to say no, but realistically speaking, I'm thinking early 2018. I think it'll take about 2, maybe 3 months, and you know, hopefully my baby's an angel and she just wants to let us sleep and let me get my rest, and then I can fight early 2018.
And also, though, Max Holloway, the featherweight champion now, he's expressed interest in trying to bring UFC to Hawaii. What would that mean for you if UFC goes there?
Oh, that would be huge. You know, it's been a topic of conversation for years and years. I think it was back in, I want to say 2012 or so. You know, we like kind of on the backside of things, we heard, oh, it's gonna happen, and never did happen. And then a year or two later, oh, it's gonna happen. There's gonna be a card in Hawaii. Waited for that, didn't happen. So it's at the point where, you know, like I really hope it would be a dream come true to all the Hawaii fighters to have a UFC there. It would be huge to the Hawaii and the Hawaiian fans. You know, I think it'd be a sellout show. I think all the staff and the rest of the fighters would love to be there, just because fighting is so huge in Hawaii. You know, there's no fans like Hawaiian fans. But I mean, I guess it's like a money thing, figuring out the venue, taxes, whatever it may be. So it's something that's kind of out of the fighters' hands, but all we can do is keep hoping, praying, and trying to promote it so that they say, you know what, let's take this gamble and let's go to Hawaii.
And I'm assuming, obviously, you would like to fight on that card.
Oh, I don't care if I fought the week before. I would definitely fight on that card. And speaking of Max, you know, when I heard that he was headlining that December 2nd card, I was like, man, if my baby wasn't, you know, right around the corner, I would honestly try to get on that card, you know, and get some more Hawaiians on it, and, you know, just be, you know, it's just a good feeling when you're on a card with some more local boys or friends or teammates. So that would have been cool.
And how often do you go back?
Before I used to go back to Hawaii, I would literally spend like 6 months out of the year, not straight, so like not from January to June, but 6 months out of the year in Hawaii. In 2015, I bought a house out here, and since then, I haven't been able to go back quite as much. I still go back pretty often, but not that much, not like the 6 months here, 6 months there type of deal. But now with everything happening with my baby on the way, you know, I probably won't be able to get back until she's ready, that she's old enough to fly. So probably won't be able to get back till next year. I mean, maybe I'll try to go back for a day or two and visit my family before the holidays, just because I'll be off and whatnot. But we'll see.
And lastly, I know we're here at Extreme Couture, but you've expressed that training at the Performance Institute has helped a lot. So how many days are you over there?
I'm honestly there 5 days a week, but it's not always training. I train there Monday, Wednesday, Friday with Bo, and that's strength and conditioning. And then I run kind of like a wrestling practice there on Friday mornings. And not this past camp, but last camp, I did a grappling, kind of ran. When I say ran, I just mean like, because you need to be a UFC fighter to use the facility. I was that UFC fighter, but they're so cool about everything. They let you bring like basically your whole team if you wanted to. So we would have like 20 guys or so, you know, in there on Wednesdays and Fridays. Wednesdays we're rolling, doing jiu-jitsu. Fridays more wrestling based. But yeah, as far as being there, I take full advantage of that place. In fact, right after this, I'm gonna head there, jump in the ice bath, jump in the jacuzzi, you know, just work on recovery.
Well, I will let you go recover, and I greatly appreciate your time, and all your fans. We all hope to see you back in the octagon very soon, and congratulations once again on your newborn.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.